We are making patterns 8, 9, and 10. The first two are simple card patterns. The third one's just a tiny bit more complicated just because it is a fun fold. But I've got helpful tips to show you for making each one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to sunnydaystamping.com. I'm Julie Baca. It is the first Thursday of the month, so it is our card pattern class. I love these. I love giving you guys the tools to be able to just get more use out of the products that you have, to give you ideas on how to use them. These patterns are fantastic for that because you just plug in your products right into here and they work with so many things. So as you watch the video, unlike my other videos, I give you all of the measurements as we go to make the pattern, and you can make it right along with me. You can stop and start the video to get the measurements. A written tutorial is also available so that you can have all the details on how to make my example cards. I've got a lot of examples to show you for how to use that pattern. All right, so let's get started. Added 3 more patterns to our collection. So the way these patterns work are to give you all of the measurements and a fantastic layout so that when you want to make a card, you can just pick out a pattern that you want to try and then use your products in there to make a great card. On the reverse side of that, if you're like, oh, I really want to play with this one specific stamp set, flip through all of your patterns and find one that's going to work perfectly with your stamp set. So you can use it both ways, but all of them are going to give you just that springboard of creativity that you need for creating some great cards. Now, you can make these patterns out of just scrap pieces of paper if you want. It's my preference, though, to make them out of more of a neutral palette. For me, the way my brain works, man, I need to not have like a cluttery look to it. I'm able to more quickly visualize how to use my products in the pattern if I use this neutral color palette. This is smoky slate, black and white, and then basic gray. So when making the patterns, just to save paper, for the card base, you're just going to use a flat sheet of paper. But when you go to make your card, you're going to, fold it like a card. So I'm going to give you the measurements for both of those. So for the card base, for the simple patterns, you're going to use a 5.5 by 4.25 piece of paper. But when you go to make your card, you are going to cut it at 8.5, scored at 4.25. So this is more of just a representation of what the card base is. It's the measurement for the front so you can decorate it. So now make sure to write those measurements either on the front of your card, on the back of the card, or I like to print mine out because my handwriting's horrible. So I wrote this ginormous tutorial to go with this class, and you can purchase this or you can get it for free with a $50 order in August using my host code. But on the first 2 pages are the card template measurements. So you go ahead and you cut these out and you just stick these right on the back of your pattern. So when you go to make a card, you don't even have to pull up your computer or pull out your book of all your measurements and stuff. They are all just right there. It makes it so easy. So the next layer is 4 by 5.25. And then the next layer is 3.75 by 5 with a strip of 1.5 inch wide by, I did not cut that right. Okay, 1.5 inches wide by 3.75. You want it as long as this sheet. Now, if you don't feel like cutting the length measurement of this, cut it at 1.5 and have it extending past here, glue it on, flip it over, and then just trim off. Well, you can't see anything because it's black. Trim off the excess if you don't want to have the measurement for that when you're making the pattern or when you're making the card. So let's just pretend that I cut that right. This is supposed to extend the full length. Then you're going to put a big fat circle in the middle. This is 3 inches, and then a tiny circle at the top for 1.25 inches. Now, one tip for when you go to make cards like this, not necessarily the pattern, but the card, you're going to have, whenever you have a card that has several layers like this, think about what you can cut out of the middle of these pieces to use on this card or other cards, because it's all going to be covered up and no one's going to know that you were saving paper. So let me show you the examples I made using this pattern here. In the written tutorial, I've got all of the measurements for these specific cards because I changed little things around, which is what you'll do when you're creating your cards. And there's some written measurements too. But when you make the pattern, you can just have fun creating with however you want. Now look at this, so cute. Oh, I'm going to show you 3 examples. So with every pattern, you can change any of these elements to fit with what you want. And I'm going to show you 3 basic ways for changing up little bits of your card, just to give you more ideas. So the first way is to use just cardstock on the back. The second way is to emboss that cardstock just to give it a different look. And the third way is to use designer series paper. So I'll just put these right side by side so you can see how you use the pattern, and you can even change that strip. I used the cutest onesie to make this super cute thing. Now you can see this one, you can rotate the orientation to fit with the stamp set that you have. This one I used the penciled pear, and which was actually very easy to use. I really liked this set. The last example is using the designer series paper option, and this is when you wanted to get really strategic with what you were cutting out of the layers. This is actually the middle of that designer series paper, so I cut it out first, covered it up so no one can tell that I cut that out of the center, and then just popped it right there. And this one opens like this. And of course, you got to throw some hearts on the back and on the envelope. All right, card pattern number 10. You need a 4 1/4 by 5.5 for the pattern, but for your card base, when you go to make it, you cut an 8.5-inch long scored at 4 1/4. Now, this layer is 3 7/8 across the top by 5 1/8. And then you need just the tiny strip for this card, just a 1/2 inch. And like you did before, you can cut it longer than it is and flip it over and snip it off. Hey, I cut this one right. Yay me. And then you need 3 little squares that are 1 inch. Now, tip for assembling the card pattern and the card, stick these on, put the center one on first, and then add the 2 on the sides, because if this one is in the center, you know it's going to be even up. So whether you put these like evenly spaced apart or you put them close together, they're going to look awesome. But let me also give you a tip for how to cut those little squares. So for the squares, go digging through your scrap and find a little piece of paper and cut it down so it is 1 inch wide. Don't worry about how long it is. Then, actually, the longer the better, because you'll be able to have a handle on it. Then you can just go through and measure on this side of your paper trimmer at 1 inch, bing, bang, boom, and you've got 3 little squares. Now, for some ideas of how to use this, you could stamp on something before you cut it and then split it apart. You could take designer series paper that is 1 inch by 3 inch and cut it apart, or an embossed piece, whatever you want to do. I had so much fun making the examples for these cards. I don't know, it is just so much fun trying to think of little things to put in those squares. Oh, I forgot to say, before you're done with this pattern, make sure to cut out the measurements or write on the back what all the measurements for the pattern are. Pattern is, so that you've got, so you don't have to look it up when you're ready to make a card. This Cutest Cows was actually the set that I had in mind when I made this pattern, because I knew I wanted to put little cow faces in there. Isn't that so cute? And then use the, make sure to decorate your envelope too. Oh, here, let me show the inside. It's so cute. Option 2, we are using embossing to decorate that bottom layer. And then I also used cutouts on top of the squares, just to give you kind of another idea of how to use that, and put some cutouts in the middle and of course on the back. The last one, I wanted to give you an idea, not only how to use designer series paper, but also how to rotate your pattern. You can rotate it like that, but I also, changed the dimension of that strip. So instead of it running this way, it was running this way. And if you can get the measurement if you get my my written tutorial, but you can figure it out for sure that you just want it to be the length of this this layer right here, you can either figure that out or you can just lay your strip on top, remember, and snip it off. So that layer measurement was 5 1/8. So that's how long you'd need that little strip. All right, I'm saving the best for last. The fun folds are always my favorite, but I wanted to show you the diagram first because I think that will be helpful to see where we're going with this. I'm going to give you an easy way to cut those angles too. So you're going to take a piece of cardstock and cut it in half long ways. You can make 2 cards with 1 piece of paper. And now you're going to rotate it and you're going to score it in half like you normally would for a card at 5 1/2. So you're going to score it there. And then you're going to score it at 2 1/8. If you need a refresher on eighths, I've got that video where I explained that and also a free download. So for the eighths, you go to 2 and you bump it up 2 little tick marks to the 2 1/8. Now, so you've got this one section that is large without the score line, and then you've got this other section that has the score line in the middle and this score line here. I don't know if you can see that at all. Okay, so you're going to take this section and rotate it and line it up on the 4 1/4 mark, which is the width of this, right? And we're going to mark the halfway mark, which is 2 1/8. So right where we scored it, that same measurement, 2 1/8, just put a little tick mark right there. And that is going to be the point of our card base right here. So the easiest way to do this, I find, is to put my finger right on that dot and put it right in my cutting trough. And then while I'm holding that there, I take my other hand and rotate this into place. And what we're doing is finding that point where the score line meets. Close this down and just slice off that perfect corner. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Hold your point, your middle mark there, and then use your other hand to rotate this into place like this, that score line. And then we're gonna, actually, I'm not gonna cut down this way. I don't wanna mess up my, the tip of my triangle on that end. So I'm gonna bring my blade down here and slice up. And then check that out, perfect triangle, like very minimal measuring. Now you're gonna fold and burnish those score lines. Doesn't matter which way you turn them. We'll figure it out later. So just get them nice and burnished. So now you're going to need 2 pieces that are 3 1/8 by 4, and that's going to go here and here. And this piece is optional. You could leave it off if you don't want to have that on there, but I sure think it looks pretty. And then you need a piece that is 5 1/4 by 4 for the inside. You know, I'm just going to go ahead and glue this on here just to make it easier. Now, these panels that you put on here, they can be cardstock, they could be stamped cardstock, you could use designer series paper, or you could use embossed paper. Like, you could do so many things. Now we need like a focal point, right? So what you're gonna do is, when your paper's like this, oh, here, let me show you this part, because then that's going to show you like where those panels go. Okay, so you're going to fold your card in half and then fold this triangle back, and that's where you're going to put a square. You're going to need 2 squares that are 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. The first one is going to go here, and the tip for attaching this is you can see that you're going to line up these points perfectly on that score line. That means you have half of your square on there. So I'm only going to put glue, you know, in that first half. We don't want to glue the card shut. So you're going to fold this back and then just take your time lining that up, making sure there's an equal margin here. And then these points are going to fit perfectly on that score line. And then I like, whenever I'm gluing something, to just run my bone folder over it. So you can be done with your card like this, but another option is to take that other square so that you have a place to write on the inside of your card. You could do like this, or you could do like this. Now, if you put this directly in the center of your card, when you go to close this, you can't see it. And that's what you want. You don't really want to see that triangle. And I think it looks fantastic right in the middle, because it looks like it's kind of like framed by whatever paper you use underneath here. Now, when I was making this pattern, I had this set in mind because I love these bees and I wanted the bee to be out above, hanging off of that front square. This is a Valentine set, but you change up the colors and it is not Valentine's. So you can see I use designer series paper on the inside. And then you can see how that square in there, it just gets really framed out by the designer series paper. And then make sure to throw yourself a little something on the back and then use designer series paper to decorate your envelope. If you'd like a little more instruction, this tutorial is available. It's for free for my customers who place a $50 order in August using my host code. It's also free for my team members, or you can just purchase it on my website. I put out a new card making video every Thursday and then these pattern classes every month. So keep on checking back. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. It really helps so much. Leave me a comment. I read and respond to every single one. If you like these videos, you can also subscribe and hit the bell to get notified so you don't miss out on anything. Thank you so much for watching. Have a sunny day.